Aloha and welcome to Writers Showcase number 153. We've been going about this for quite a while. Let's bring in our two guests. First off, Perion. Then, microwave noises. Then let's bring in Wissia.
No, it's actually pretty close enough to what I suggested. Well, this is going to be a pretty awkward and maybe even short stream because, funnily enough, I don't actually have anything to present.
Oh.
Yeah. I just decided, well, I may as well be on to give some real-time commentary. Also, I thought Axela was going to be on, but apparently he's not going to be able to make it either.
And it turns out that I'm eating lunch. Well, about to eat lunch.
Okay.
So, afternoon, by the way.
Hey, what's up, buddy? How you doing? I thought you were going to be on today, Axela. I was going to sit over here and listen to your story and give you live commentary in real time. But as it turns out, neither of us are available today, so...
Get on right now. Or die.
I guess we're just all going to sit over here and listen to... Huh? Yeah, don't worry. We're both in the same boat, trust me. Like, I will have moments of bright inspiration that just fizzle out very quickly.
No worries.
Anyway, yeah, just be sure that you at least get it done, Axela. I mean, at least, have something that's done.
Don't say that word.
Yes, still nothing. I only have the scraps of chapter 1, a bunch of little bits and ideas over here that I am not going to present because it's cringe.
Bother. Well, you know what? This may mean
Unless you guys would like to hear the one-handed writing sections, if that's okay with all of you. Yeah, I heard your snickering over there, done. Because I know that's what you guys are gonna say. I know you're gonna say that when I read it.
So a lot of literary soft porn.
Yeah. You could say literary soft core.
Oh, are we back to Wissia's upward? Not Wissia. You know what I mean. Rosa, is that her name? Rosa?
No, we're doing a new story. I said, fuck it. I'm going to fast forward about 20-something years, and we're going to follow Valerie's story now.
Oh, okay.
We're following her. We're following her niece. She has a niece.
Cool. Okay, well, I could read something in a moment, but I'll be eating at the same time if I did.
Yep.
It's okay. I can go first.
You know what? That's gonna be a first, isn't it?
No.
Nope. Wait, you've gone first before?
Yes.
Huh.
The good news is now I'll be able to hear your story. Hopefully it lasts more than 5 minutes this time.
Yeah, it'll probably be significantly longer than that. up. All right. All right. So to summarize what has happened up to this point, we have the She people have now begun their assault on the Darkmouth, and now the Azareth and the Alintian defenders now need to defend it at least until the relief force can arrive. So that's the main thing that's happened up to this point. As far as I think that's the main thing. And Kurfir is now getting ready to match blades with a She High Lord, one of the more powerful of their kind. So it's the main thing that has happened up to this point. All right. So Amora flew up to one of the towers, then called down scores and scores of birds down upon the She and the Deep Ones as her behemoths engaged with the Cthulhu and Dryamar. The hulking titans and smashed into each other, tearing chunks of flesh away from whatever their target was. Roars and bellows accompanied the battle of giants, and the She and the Deep Ones trying to get into the city to escape from being crushed by the monsters just as much as to kill the humans. Karamar packs began savaging the flanks, only to be speared or destroyed by the strange fluid shifters or the druids hidden among the She. Thinking quickly, Amora sent her birds flying around the mess of bodies, clambering into the holes into the ground and or pressing toward the gaps in the wall. Let me see, Amara thought, as the behemoths and Cthulhu fell to the ground, too injured to continue the fight, despite her pushing her beasts beyond their breaking point. She carefully selected a pair of small curlings that had stayed behind and flew them down and surveyed where the enemy druids were. Narrowing her eyes, Amora searched the mass of people until she discovered a small group of men surrounded by thousands of She and Deep One. They all had strange faces, like they were old and young at the same time, with long white beards and frail bodies. So that's what they are, she thought, then sent the birds down among the crowd. One of the druids fell down, beset by the birds. Without a word, one of the druids raised his hand and sent out a blast as to power at the birds, but the damage was done to his friends. Amora pulled out before the pain could hit her, then lashed onto more of the Karamar to try and break through, but there were too many sheep in the cat-like monsters and the druids. Unable to figure out another way to solve the issue, Amora stepped into the Umbriel and flew over the outer city, trying to find the place where she would be most needed. It didn't take too long. A group of humans held a large squad of She and Deep Ones with crab-like bodies and twisted, impassive faces, large clawed pincers clacking as they grabbed onto any poor fool that got in their way. Thinking quickly, Amora dropped down into the midst of the fight, swinging her axe wildly and without much coordination. However, she was so fast and strong that they retreated before her after a few of their number were hacked apart. Retreat back to the cape, she called, pointing her axe toward one of the large bastions. Get out of here! The men saluted and retreated, keeping a very close formation to prevent the enemy from charging in through the gaps in formations. With a strange humming noise, several strange deep ones that glowed with an ethereal luna presence approached, tentacles writhing from their backs as they advanced. Some of them bared shark fangs and a strange, smooth, fish-like face. Then something hit her mind like a physical blow, drawing on the power of her bracelet. Mora fought back, shoving the four or assaulting her mind out. Before she could do more than cut down the first creature, more deep ones, some walking masses of tentacles, other more serpentine with spindly arms and long tails. The more crustacean-like creatures advanced, trampling over the dead humans and she as they attempted to pursue the fleeing humans. Gamora immediately slipped into the Umbriel to avoid being attacked, then stepped out and hacked the head off of one of the crustacean beasts. The serpentine creatures began hurling blasts of water at her, but she slipped into the Umbriel before the water could strike her. Curifir and the elf and the she Lords slammed their blades against each other. The Azareth's blade striking his enemy's shield as often as blade to blade. The High Lord was a ferocious fighter and clearly had some kind of talisman to enhance himself, since even with his rings and amulet, Curifir was only able to match his foe. Thinking quickly, Curifir formed his power into a blast of green fire from his hand and hurled it at his opponent. In response, the She raised his shield in the perfect time to block the attack, then spun out of the way as Curifir slashed at him with his follow-up sword strike. "We need to get him to overextend," Curifir thought as they exchanged blows. Light burst from the tall warrior, but Curifir unleashed a wave of shadowy fire to smash against the light. Drawing on the strength of his artifacts, Curifir pushed back the light. Abruptly, the She struck at him, blade darting around his shield. Curifir blocked each strike, then slid into the umbrella and willed himself behind his enemy. The She shifted and swung his shield at Curifir, only to have him grab onto the lip and then hack the arm off at the shoulder. Screaming, She dropped his sword and clutched at his stump, but Curifir grabbed onto the stump and poured dark power into the injury. With a sickening squelch, the flesh began rotting away, bubbling pustules spreading across the skin and bursting with green, smoking blood. Once the High Lord dropped to the ground, writhing and choking, green liquid spraying from his lips. Curifir turned to face the She, backing away from him. "Now to kill." Casually, he raised his hand and pulled one of them to him, catching the poor creature by his throat and squeezing. "I will kill all of you filthy, disgusting animals," Curifir hissed, suffusing his victim in poisonous fire before dropping him to the ground and tossing him aside. One by one, he raised his sword, then stepped into the umbrella and shot for it, then emerged out of the shadow world and slashed the head off of another She before shoving his sword into the stomach of the one beside him and dragging the blade upward to split the creature in half. They tried to close in on him, but these were regular She warriors, and they were no match for him. Grinning, Curifir rushed through the ranks of She, slashing at anything they got in front of him. The She and deep ones coalesced into a solid mass, retreating backward. Curifir bared his teeth and slid into the umbriel, sliding behind the shield wall and slamming his hand into the ground, palm open, fingers spread. Dark energy blasted around him in a circle, consuming the She around him. Screams of pain filled the air as the She were consumed with ethereal flames. He was about to continue his rampage before a blast of force struck him, threw him back for a moment. Grunting, Curifir stood up and narrowed his eyes as the white-haired druids emerged from the crowd and began unleashing magical attacks in rapid succession from the wooden or metallic staffs in their hands. power flowing through him, Curifear raised his hand and created a shield of shadows swirling around him. Over and over, blasts of blue energy struck his shield, causing his rings to grow brighter as the shadows grew deeper and deeper. As the druids struck at him, the she-warriors and deep ones closed him and started hammering against his shield. Now that he had so many mages against him, Curifear would have to flee. Drawing on the power of his amulet, Curifear closed his fist and pushed outward with his dark powers. "Be gone!" one of the druids yells, thrusting at his staff. Curifear's shield cracked. Face set in a snarl, he adjusted himself and retreated back into the Umbriel and flew toward one of the forts. How many of you managed to flee with a fort? See, this is he. And a beside. And more on the battlements. More goodness. Most of them, but there's still going to be hundreds of bodies down there. Curifear grimaced. They've finally committed their druids to fighting us. He glared down at his hand and clutched his ringed fist. 4 of them. I can't stand against them even with my powers. How many of you fought before? Amora asked. 1, maybe 2. So 4 is a much higher number for them to commit to something like this. Amora leaned against the wall, glancing through one of the murder holes. Curifear's hands shook with repressed rage as he looked down at the men being killed below him by the she. Despite the humans' desperate efforts, the she pushed through them like a scythe through wheat, their arrows, spears, and blades cutting down the men of Valentius without mercy. Some were taken prisoner and moved to the back ranks of the enemy, but most were slain. We're going to have to prepare for the long siege. Amora looked away from the death below them and turned toward Curifear. Do you think we can hold out at this rate? They've decided to gamble a great deal on this battle. Curifear's voice was flat as a board, and more will come. I feel that this is the beginning of a long, dragged-out war, the first full-scale war that we've had with the she. Before this, it was raids and harassing our ships and towns. This is going to be a war of annihilation. Mora nodded. I'll get the message to Kamul. He's getting closer every day with a large army, but it's not as large as the enemy we're up against, but it will help. Curifear took a deep breath. For all our sakes, I hope he comes before we lose any more ground. Chapter 20, The Warlord. The enemy has broken through the first wall and surrounded the first 2 fortresses within the Dark Maw. Kamul relayed the message before handing the paper to Farah. Charlin grimaced. Did they say how many of the she were attacking the mall? At least 20,000, possibly more. Handed off the letter to another of Kamul's generals. They made it difficult to enter by the way that we originally planned. We'll have to decide on a new plan of attack. Kamul pulled out the map he'd received from Arterazon and unrolled it. The enemy is here, he said, voicing his thoughts so that everyone could voice their opinions and respond to his ideas. Based on the drawing that we received, the enemy is spread out like this, outside the mouth, and is bottlenecked within the wall, all being broken up, open in a pair of places. There is a way that we can win, but it's going to require coordination and a bit of a gamble. What's your plan? Farah asks. Catch the enemy in the mouth of the canyon. We'll point to the exact point on the map. If we simply charge in, they'll just bunch together and prevent us from pushing through. So that we're going to have to weaken their lines with mounted archers before moving in with a heavy horse to begin breaking up the enemy while Curifear and Amora attack from the fortress. It seems like a good plan, Kamul, Elora had remarked eagerly. I'll lead the heavy horse myself. Will place his hand on his friend's shoulder. No, Farah and I will ride at the head of our army. With our powers, we'll be able to weaken the enemy enough for you and the others to break through and start cutting our way through. Elren seemed disappointed, but he nodded in acceptance. Farah nodded in approval, then motioned to the Elantian generals. This man is your commanding officer, she nodded to Kamul. Obey him as you would me or my father. The Elantians bowed in assent, seeming unperturbed at having a foreigner placed over them. Kamul drew himself up and turned his gaze around the group. Once we reach the enemy, we'll form our battle lines. For now, we ride. The generals departed, the Brathen generals keeping away from the Olintians, but for some reason, Elrond and a tall Olintian officer named Barden seemed to be chatting away in a friendly fashion as they walked to their horses. Fair glanced at the two disparate men, tilted her head in inquisitive fashion. So, they're talking about horses, she remarked. Elrond was a jockey before his father lost everything and his whole family was sent down into the mines. Kamul tapped his fingers against his palms absently. He always loved horses, and he was our best horse thief during the rebellion. Farah raised her eyebrows. Well, that is interesting. Barden rose from stable boy to cavalry officer after he spent most of his life in the saddle raiding the kingdoms that we were expanding into. Hopefully, this is the first step in building bonds between the two kingdoms. Kamul took a deep breath and adjusted his gauntlets. He never keeps still, even when he was intently focused on something. His hands never stopped moving. Farah observed the movement and put her fingertips under her chin. Why do you do that? She asked. Don't your fingers ever get tired? Not really. No. Tilting, Kamul looked down at his gauntlet, tilting his hand back and forth. I've always been unable to stand still. That's why I've always loved battle. It's the only time in my life when I can completely focus this on one thing at a time. I've always liked the competition, she grinned. The exhilaration of pushing yourself to the limit against a powerful and skilled foe. I've only had that a few times in my life, Kabul admitted, mostly because I was bigger and stronger than most of my opponents, and very few other than you have stood a chance against me. When I'm in battle, the world simplifies down to a single objective, and usually I only have my body going in several directions in order to make sure I keep focused on the task at hand. Interesting. Farah stroked the hilt of her sword. It's a rather common state for being for soldiers. Jacer has a similar condition. Kamul both rolled his shoulders and nodded to the distance. We should get moving. So, just between the two of us, what do you want to do about us after the battle? Farah asked, voice oddly casual. I think my father likes you, but I'm intrigued to learn your specific intentions. I would very much like to court, and if we suit each other, marry you. Kamul said directly. Farah grinned and nodded. Good. I must admit the idea of being wooed has appealed to me. Well, I'll just have to see how good at the practice you are. Kamul chuckled. I'm a soldier who was sold into slavery. I don't really have much experience with wooing, so I'll need some practice. I'll be forgiving about the action and accept the intent behind it. Farah put her hand on his shoulder. For right now, I'm just glad you and I are on the same side. You're one of the few fighters I've ever met that can actually match my skill. Likewise. The corner of Kamul's mouth quirked up slightly, mostly because not many people I've fought were able to stand up to me with a mace in hand. Well, the she will test you quite a bit. Farah grinned. But whatever happens, I'll be watching your back, and we'll consider that at the end.
You're done already?
Is that it?
Yeah.
Oh.
Well, it was 15 minutes. Well, or 20 minutes, I think.
Well, it was longer than the last two were, anyway. It was a very romantic moment in the story now.
It wasn't bad.
Oh, good.
I mean, I'm going to go and just open up with some of my criticisms immediately. I had a pretty hard time following along what was going on. Because it sounded at first, it was like, oh, it's a big mega battle or something. And then somewhere like halfway in between, it seems like we just jump from one location to another, and we're no longer on the battlefield. We're over there in that scene, and I just never noticed the change, and it came off as rather jarring for me.
Oh, okay. I put a chapter break in there, but
I just realized. My apologies. I just remembered you explicitly said we were going over to another chapter.
Okay.
God damn it.
Okay.
So yeah,
No.
I goofed. I goof.
Fair enough. Still, yeah, that was a bit of a change. Mind you, it was a pleasant change. So hey.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was just thinking that we gotta like go back and forth between the relief force and the standard force, just so that the audience could kind of keep track of both. Yeah, I did try to put a chapter break in there.
Yep. Nope. You did good.
Are the sheep evil? Sorry. Are the sheep actually evil?
I never asked that question when it comes to Dunn, because as far as I'm concerned, there is no good or evil in any of his settings. Just these are the humans, these are the not humans.
And
go humanity.
Humans, the not humans are usually treated as the antagonist.
In this case, the Shi are mostly morally gray, as opposed to the Azrith, which are slowly going to become morally black.
Oh, okay. But we're using the Azareth as the point of view characters.
Yes.
Interesting.
Yeah, the eventual point is that we will have both the Shi and the Azrith in the second book, and then the Azrith are basically going to be solidly the villains in the second book, in the third book.
Cool. But they'll still be POV?
Yes, they will still be POV characters. That is correct.
Ah, okay. That's intriguing. That, I grant you, is intriguing.
Yeah, especially since by that point, they will kind of have had their brains fully rewritten by Mithrical.
Right. It's not really their fault then. I mean, we've all been there.
No, we haven't all been over there. There's a reason why I avoid mind-altering drugs at all times.
So you've never been mind controlled by an evil psychopath demigod?
I don't even let that happen.
I'm impressed.
Yeah, I just sort of look at them and it's like, no. And then they stop. You can do that, by the way. Remember, they can't mind control you without your consent.
Now we're getting into free will and all that.
And
So
also, a vampire cannot enter your home without your consent.
So basically what you're saying is you would be the greatest weapon against Slanesh in Warhammer 40k.
Whoa. Consent. If Slanesh drops some big-tittied dummy mommy in front of me and tries to coerce me through that, I might end up consenting. Especially if she's being very, very nice and asking politely.
You should make Mithrical do that. Like just drop in somebody naked and take over the minds that way.
just send in a particularly nice and seductive demonette, and you might get me. Look, I'm a human being. I can admit to my vices, you know?
That's their secret weapon then. So, yeah, there's a few places here or there where, like, wording and stuff. What was it? Trying to find something I thought could be looking for or something like that. Maybe something like that. I don't remember at all. So, like, there's one or two things where you can just look it over and smooth out the prose a bit.
Yeah, I'm not a big fan of real-time editing over here in that regard, where you just like stop and then you fix something and then you read it again. Yeah, it really throws off the pacing.
There was a couple of moments of that, yes, but a couple of times it was my misread. I put in the wrong word.
Yeah,
I mean, sometimes I go first or you go first.
Oh, go ahead.
Yeah, sometimes whenever I end up misreading, I just go along with the misread. Because sometimes it just works just as fine, and there really isn't any reason to, stress over it. It's
annoying is when I'm reading and there's a shrieking typo and like I had the wrong word in there. And I meant a completely different word. I'm like, oh god, that's right. I just have to fix that.
Yeah, sometimes that can happen.
Yeah.
But hey, not always.
Yeah. It's kind of annoying.
It is.
So what does Axula think about? Is it Axula or Axula?
Axula. That's what I've been going with.
Yeah. Yeah, try to do it quickly too.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not gonna edit a whole paragraph while I'm live.
Oh yeah. Oh my god, could you imagine?
Yeah. Yeah, no. Just gonna usually it's a matter of I typed one word I meant a completely different word.
Mm-hmm.
Just happen to have mostly the same letters in it, that kind of thing.
Yep. So anyway, if you can, Valerian, would you like to go next?
It depends on whether you mind if I'm eating while I'm talking.
You guys want to? Okay, you guys want to just chat a little bit then, while we're waiting?
Because I'm going to be eating I'm probably going to be eating for quite some time still. I know. I was sort of expecting that we were going to have 3 people reading and not just 2 people reading.
God damn it, Dunn. Please tell me you did not count me. Well,
the other thing is that we could have Blighto read Blighto could read another chapter.
Yeah, I suppose we could. I guess I could try to just read the whole battle or something.
Or you could just put up with my eating while I'm talking.
Don, do you want to put up with his eating while he's talking?
I honestly think that it would be rather amusing.
Okay.
To hear your one-handed.
I only jokingly refer to it as that. Okay.
If I read what I'll have, it'll be embarrassing. I see it. That's needs a lot more work. Do it, he says. Oh dear.
Do it.
Okay.
Just when you hear the chewing bits, just think of it as punctuation, as a new novel form of punctuation.
Okay. I'll just go ahead and read the version that I already have written down. But I am going to skip shit. So, yeah. Let me just pull it up. Let me see if this thing's even readable or not. Okay, so I'll go over here. I'll just put a big old skip right over there. And yep. Okay, this is actually going to be impossibly. This is going to be incredibly short, but we'll see what I can do. All right, so I was not expecting to present today, and sorry, little stage shy, I guess, right now. So, accused. Valerie Luna stands accused of a particularly horrible murder, that being of her own father. While awaiting the final verdict, none other than Rosa Esperanza Luna, her aunt in the protagonist of our previous series, goes up to her and demands for an explanation before she makes her final decision. And so Valerie decides to recount her own story and explain to her everything that transpired that led up to this moment, everything that led to her final decision. And it all starts back at the very beginning. Chapter 1, Arrival. 23 years ago. Location, Obscura System. Planetary time, 9:16. Vessel, Sparrow-class corvette, the Sanguine Dagger. It was pitch black, near perfect darkness. The air was humid and thick, the forest trees tall and imposing, and the vines hung from them like 1,000 limp serpents. Yet, through all the chippering and chattering, Valerie could hear herself panting. She sprinted, running as fast as she could, yet her legs moved her at the pace of a slow walk. Most of her gear had been shredded long ago, the scars replacing them. Beads of sweat kept running down her face, her eyes tearing up whenever a droplet found its way there. She could hear her voice seeming to come from everywhere all at once. "Val! Hold on!" she shouted, readying her sidearm and struggling to speed up. Then something moved and tripped her over. She stumbled and fell face first into the muddy ground, but cushioned her fall with her arms. Valerie shuddered, the cold sludge coating her as the rain finally fell from the cloudy sky. Her throat was thrashed, her body bruised, but she could still hear her calling out, her voice louder. She had to be close. So, the mauled Valerie got back to her feet, groaning and gnashing her teeth as her sore form stood up and kept running, cutting through the vines and branches without care for the small cuts they left behind, until she could see the clearing and froze. "Valerie?" She gasped, her heart throbbing and pounding in her chest, and her eyes meeting hers. An ebony woman loomed over her, her long white hair hovering inches from her face, and sandy golden eyes staring into hers. Valerie's ribs shuddered and trembled as adrenaline rushed through her head. She blinked, deliberately slowing her breath to arrest control of her respiration. The white-haired woman sat back, resting her hands in her lap. Hun, you okay? Valerie's gaze darted away for a moment. She was in her room, lying flat on her back against the mattress and staring up at the dark, warm ceiling. Valerie could still see the beast in her head, its silhouette in the clearing, its grinning mouth full of sharp, vicious fangs, its tall and lanky form, and a mangled corpse at its feet. Val, she shuddered, snapping back to reality. I'm fine, Dove. It was just a bad dream. Dove's eyebrows pulled together, and her lower lip curled out. Did it involve me? Or the mission? Valerie's jaw locked. She almost felt the teeth clasp around her neck and the nerves firing off in her torso, as though she had to have been thrashed herself. She peered into Dove's worried eyes, the mangled corpse creeping back into her mind. Valerie's eyes began to well, a jittering in her neck as though ready to whimper. Dove's gaze began to dull and become empty, the corners of her lips sagging down. Then the white-haired phoenix fell on Valerie, slipping her arms around her and hugging her tight. Valerie felt the air escape her, a warmth rushing through her chest and the tension in her face melting away. Then she wrapped her arms around Dove and pulled her closer. She could feel the rhythmic pulsing within. Oh my god, there's so much descriptions over here. Somehow, the icy cold fear began to melt away under Dove's warmth, and Valerie's muscles began to relax. Dove placed her lips near Valerie's ear and spoke in a soft, gentle whisper. You remember what Sienna told us about premonitions, right? Valerie swallowed, recalling the raven's warning. She told us not to listen, right? Dove shook her head. No, she wanted us to act on them, but to never panic. For when we get caught up worrying about what might happen, we make it inevitable. Valerie stared at the ceiling. Ah, that sounds more like her. Dove smiled and kissed Valerie on the forehead. Don't worry so much about the mission, hon. We've got this, remember? All our lives and training is to get us ready for something like this. Valerie took a deep breath, somehow still able to do so, even with Dove on top of her. Let's hope so, she said, as Dove pressed against the mattress beneath her and pushed up. The white-haired phoenix sat beside her, her hand resting on her lap, and her face as radiant as ever. Speaking of which, she began, let's get some clothes on. We're gonna be landing today. And then skipping approximately 2 pages. Their arrival was preceded by rainfall.
Why? Because it's erotic?
Huh? No, because it's cringe. And also, I wanted to save a bunch of that shit for later anyway, so let's just keep going. Their arrival was preceded by rainfall. The shuttle's ramp lowered, unveiling the bright white lights. Oh my god, I hate... Why did I do that? Why do I do this? The shuttle's ramp lowered, unveiling the white lights that glowed like the sun on the otherwise dreary, cloudy planet. Valerie looked up at a beautiful, deep turquoise sky, a sure sign that, despite the clouds, it was still day. Valerie stepped off the shuttle, adorned in her black cyber armor marked with purple, befitting a true daughter of twilight. A joyful, nostalgic smile formed across her face as the cool, soothing drops of rain fell onto her hair and streamed down the black plates of her armor. Her eyes glanced out at the dark concrete of the platform, observing the rhythmic ripples in the puddles. Beside Valerie was Dove, dressed in white and marked in yellow, Daisy in red and orange, Meryl in maroon and white, and Miriam in black and scarlet. Daisy, the shortest of the lot, with her cinnamon complexion, sunny eyes, and short, bright orange hair, gazed in awe at the distant foliage that seemed to dominate the horizon. Whoa, the trees are even bigger in person, she exclaimed, dragging out her amazement. A grin crept across the red-headed Shirley as she leaned closer to Daisy. Makes you wonder what's up there, eh? Probably some kind of super predator watching us from afar with their beady red eyes and gnarly mouthful of fangs. Valerie smirked, peeking over her shoulder. It hasn't even been 5 seconds, and you're already trying to scare Daisy. Must be a new record. The orange-haired phoenix blushed, her eyes widening. What? No, I'm not scared. Shirley giggled. Aw, don't worry, Daisy. Big Sister Shirley will keep you safe from whatever goes bump at the night here. Valerie scoffed. You mean like that time you kept your ration bar safe from that ape? Shirley's vanilla cheeks turned a bright red. I still got it back at the end. Valerie shrugged, keeping her expression smug. True, but only after the monkey took a bit from it and decided it didn't want it anymore. Ladies, Dove interjected, cutting them off. Try to act professional, she said, scowling at Valerie. We're going to be meeting the colonial governor, remember? Valerie sighed, looking ahead and keeping her chin up. They were approaching the checkpoint, where a small team of armed and armored guards stood, weapons across their chests. Valerie sneered at the men, her nose wrinkling just by looking at them. They wore a rudimentary and dilapidated version of Vanguard power armor, one that lacked the protection in every joint and had the entire abdomen unarmored. Their helmets lacked the AR features of the old suits, so they compensated by removing the armor from the faceplate, providing plenty of vision at the cost of leaving a sunset color visor as the only thing protecting their face. The weapons they carried were antiquated firearms that still used cartridge-based ballistics. Disgraceful still was the fact that these soldiers were plucked out from their childhoods and genetically modified to become this pale imitation of far superior soldiers. After all of that, Valerie still possessed the strength to easily rip them from the coffins they wore, especially in the suit she wore now. Hold it, one of the troopers said, snapping Valerie back into reality. I'm going to need to see some ID. Valerie squinted down at the man, confounded by his demeanor. Did we not send them to you before landing? Negative, he replied. We just need to verify that you're the real deal. The daughter of Twilight scowled at him. The slight not going unnoticed. Define real deal. Dove blinked, rushing forward to Valerie. Val, there's no need for this. Let's just show him our IDs and get on with it. Valerie kept her vindictive gaze on the man, seeing a smirk through his visor. With a huff, she tapped a button on the straps of her backpack, unlatching it from her armor and flipping it around to dig in and pull out her hollow card. The guard took a look at it and scoffed. A phoenix, eh? So this is what it's come down to. Valerie's eye twitched. Perhaps your PDF should invest in better equipment if you'd rather not call us. Then again, I understand getting the soldiers worthy of them can be quite bothersome. Dove's eyes shot open. Val, another soldier interjected. Better the worst soldiers than a gaggle of harlots. Valerie smirked smugly. So what does that make you if you need a gaggle of harlots to perform the task you could not? You won't, the original trooper snapped. Valerie, was it? Aren't you the one daughter of Twilight who doesn't have her powers yet? Valerie's eyes shrunk, her vindictive gaze fixated on him. Dove noticed this and protested. Val, no! Valerie let her warning fall on deaf ears as she walked up to the soldier and stared down at him. Say that again, she growled. The trooper snickered. You think I'm intimidated by you? No. Without that armor, you're just a useless sack of meat. And you're just as useless no matter what you wear. Dove felt a tug at her arm, nearly being pulled back. Her eyes darted to the disappointed Dove, trying to pull her away. Ha! Even your bitch here thinks you're full of shit. Valerie's pulse spiked, her head feeling lighter as adrenaline rushed through. Do you want to test that theory, Sharmuta? Oi! Valerie flinched, looking past the guards and seeing a man in white beneath an umbrella drone, escorted by 2 more men, approaching the checkpoint. What's this commotion about? The guards immediately stood at attention. Sir, we're just... Don't bother with the excuses, the planetary governor spat out, his hands still behind his back. Is that any way to treat such esteemed guests of honor? I ought to have you flogged in the public for such disgraceful conduct. Valerie blinked, flabbergasted as the planetary governor bowed his head to her. Madam Valerie, daughter of Twilight, I apologize on behalf of my men. I hope this welcome was not too obscene. Valerie's face relaxed, hearing the rhythmic sound of rain splashing against the floor and feeling it run down her face. Her eyes wandered back to the clouds, and her tone softened. No, the weather here's rather lovely. Reminds me of home. The governor nodded. Well, I am glad that at least our planet remembered to be hospitable, he replied, side-eyeing his soldiers. Dove frowned, walking past Valerie and bowing her head to the governor. Forgive us for our bickering, sir. Regardless of your men's demeanor, we should be above such petty quarrels. Valerie scowled at her, seeing Dove's golden eyes briefly meeting hers. The governor, however, responded with a hearty laugh. Please, ma'am, there's no need. I understand the desire to defend one's honor as much as any other. He recomposed himself. Come now, please, follow me. I shall share the details of the assignment with you in my office. Valerie kept her crimson lips sealed and nodded. She heard the whirl of her team's cyber suits as they walked past her. Valerie shot a confused look at Dove as she went past her, and Shirley gave her a dirty look in return. Finally, Valerie trailed behind the rest of the team and glanced back at the guards just before she entered the black hover, seeing them stare back at her through the tinted visor just before the door closed. And that is just about everything in this version of it. As you can easily see, there is a reason I didn't want to present this thing, but I will let you speak first before I say anything.
Oh, he's still muted. I like...
I didn't think it was that bad.
No, it wasn't bad. Dialogue was nice.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it was perfectly functional. I was like, yeah, this isn't that bad. Couple of word choices that I would change. Like, I think that you used vindictive gaze a couple of times.
Yeah.
They were a little bit repetitive.
I noticed that too. There's
sorry, go for it.
Yeah, I'm aware that there are a number of issues with this over here. There's some repeated pieces of descriptions here and there. There's also too much description, which I may or may have not commented on in real time. But yeah, that's it is very much a rough draft.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, like
Yes.
there's a bit where she sees a smirk through his visor. Was that it was? But she wouldn't actually be seeing it literally, right? She'd be like sensing it, or did she see it?
No, so basically these guards over here, I basically designed after the Spartans from Halo, specifically the Spartan 3s, because I was feeling really, really hateful towards Halo at that particular moment, which is why I even made mention of them being child soldiers, by the way. So yeah, I just basically wanted to make a dig at Halo's Mjolnir design, even though I actually do quite like it and came around at the end. So yeah, you can actually see through the visor, but not really. It's kind of difficult. You would need Valerie's eyes to do that. Oh, and speaking of Val, yeah, my PFP is actually her. This is yeah,
Oh.
that's what she looks like. I'm not showing you from the face from below the face, however.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
What's that weird thing she's got sticking out on the right hand side?
Huh?
What's the
Oh,
thing she's got sticking out on the right hand side?
it's just a very decorative ceremonial armor she's wearing.
Okay, so that's part of her helmet then.
No, she's wearing like a crown in this PFP.
Okay.
So, yeah, it's just a little bird crown because I thought it would look cute.
All right, fair enough.
No, Axela, that will be the only instance of personal gripes against Halo, and the fact that they are using bullets is something of note because this is a science fiction setting with weapons and technology that makes friggin' 40k look tame. So the fact they're using bullets at all
indicates that they're kind of primitive.
it's like us going to war today and finding that the other guys are using spears. That's the kind of technological backwardness we're talking about. Like the whole point is that these guys are woefully under-equipped.
Okay, I didn't necessarily get that. That might need to be re-emphasized.
Yeah, I mean, if I had already written it out, like I would have made a pretty big point about the technology level that Val and her team is at. So yeah. Also, Axula they are not siblings. Shirley is a white lady, and friggin' Daisy is Vietnamese. Sort of. I haven't yet figured that part out.
She's from freaking Nam.
Yep, because her mother is. She's supposed to be Southeast Asian, but again, I haven't yet dug enough into that, so I'm very, very hesitant to bother writing anything for her yet. Because the last thing I want to do is do something stupid and cringy. You'll also notice that that out of the 5 phoenixes present, only 4 of them ever spoke.
Okay.
I did not forget that Miriam was over there. Her whole character is that you might end up forgetting that she's even there in the first place. Because her character is supposed to be a loner. I just needed to... Oh shit, wait a second. I probably should have... Yeah, well, anyway, I guess this has been a pretty informative experience.
Yeah.
So, any suggestions?
Mostly word choice changes. I also am not sure I understand what the like the plot is.
Yep. I was concerned that would happen because I realized that I didn't exactly get that proper. I didn't have that properly addressed in this version of the thing. Basically, the plot of the story is that there's this thing on this planet over here. The Planetary Defense Force is having a lot of trouble with it. They can't seem to take it out, so they basically send a distress signal, and well, Valerie and her team are sent to address the issue. And so that's what they're doing over here.
Fair enough.
Because we are talking about a power disparity from these guys to them. It's about on par with, let's say, Yamcha, a regular human at the beginning of Dragon Ball, and freaking Ultra Instincts Goku.
Never seen Dragon Ball.
Oh. Okay, the power difference is the equivalent of an ant versus a freaking space marine or a Primarch.
You can always go with superhuman.
But I need to convey just how insanely superhuman, because it is not fair.
Yeah, you might want to iterate that a little bit more clearly. Yeah. But yeah, I didn't necessarily get that.
Yeah, so anyway, that was the thing that I did not want to present because it was very much undercooked.
Well, didn't turn out too bad though.
Yep. Still though, hopefully next time I actually have something to present that is much, much better.
And I think the delivery was good. The narration.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Me and my little bro my little bro was playing Ace Attorney, and we decided that entirely for shits and giggles to voice act all the characters because there is no voice acting in the game. So I just voiced some of the characters and he voiced some of the others. It was really fun. Our throats were completely demolished, though.
Fair enough. Anything else, Blight Blob?
Well, that's a new one. No. Other than like some word choice changes, little pieces, maybe a stronger idea of what exactly the plot is.
Yeah. Because again, I'm going to re-emphasize this point. I knew that for an introduction to the rest of the story, this chapter was not enough.
I wouldn't say it was cringe. It was just like,
well, that's because I skipped the cringy bit, because there was a bit in there where where Valerie remarks about how she thought Dove liked seeing her unclothed, and there's a bit with the freaking bra sizes where freaking Dove throws hers at Val's, and Valerie's still like, "Oh, this isn't mine. This is yours." And she's like, "How can you tell?" It's like, "It's too small." So that was, yeah, I wanted to avoid that because no.
Oh, I do know for sure that one of the things that women do when they when they get back home is that they will take off their bra as soon as they can because it's extremely uncomfortable.
Yes, I too have spoken with Trip.
No, I knew this from when I was a missionary and stole a quote book off of a sister missionary.
You what?
So what happened was I had been hearing about this quote book from a sister missionary that said no elders allowed, and like no elder was ever going to get their hands on that book. On her last day in the area, she left her iPad open. So I was like, okay. So I airdropped it to both of her quote books to myself.
So you basically read a girl's journal or diary.
No, just of the funniest quotes that she had compiled over the course of her mission, many of which were hilarious.
And this is where you learned that women do not keep the bra on when they get back home.
No, it was just a quote from a sister in there that said, "Oh my gosh, I love taking my bra off when we get back from proselyting. It's the best feeling in the world."
What was that romantic moment from your missionary life?
Oh, that ain't romantic moment. No, it was I stole a girl's quote book off of her iPad when she left it open.
So you're not at all worried about getting excommunicated for this?
No, because as I just cut and pasted it. No, because I just airdropped it to myself. And then later on, I returned it to her when she lost it.
Rather rude, though.
Yes.
And interesting.
Yeah,
ladies and gentlemen, Writer Showcase was done.
Yeah. Well, she said, "Hey, I lost my quote book." He's like, "Oh, this?" She's like, "Wait, how did you get this?" "Elder Don, you're a thief. I am calling you to repent." Well, I returned it to you. Doesn't mean that it recovers things.
This is
done.
Yeah, this is a gloriously triumphant moment in my life.
Yep. Anyway, yeah, so that was basically the cringy bit. The cringy bit was Val saying that she thought Dove liked seeing her nude in the bra sizes, and that I decided, no, I'm not going to keep that.
Oh, that is erotic. I'm turned on now.
No, I'm deleting it. It's not going to exist anymore.
Bother.
Bye.
There goes its love life.
Look, I can convey pretty clearly that Val is not very modest in her build without doing something cringy like that.
Not to mention, if you get into bra sizes and clothes sizes, then you have to develop a system of clothing sizes, and you have to develop a system of measurements and stuff, and that'd be a lot of bother.
Honestly, they're just used the same exact one as us, but then that also means that I've actually canonically said what their clothing sizes is. So now we have measure, and so now I have to be I have to keep autistic levels of detail on what everybody has.
Yeah, we wouldn't want to get the wrong sizes coming later and consistencies of people's sizes. That would be
Anyway,
sorry.
We've gone.
Well,
yeah there's absolutely no reason. Yeah, exactly. Like what Aspiring said. No, not Aspiring. Axula said. There's absolutely no reason for it.
Yeah. Okay. I'm done with that joke now.
Yeah, we're all. No! It was never funny.
Yeah. Sorry.
Oh. Valerian said it was me.
Die.
I will eventually, but not today.
Oh, thank you. Thank you.
Yeah, don't worry. I still have a few things on my bucket list. At that point, you do have my permission to euthanize me or something. Whatever you deem necessary after my many sins against you.
Thank you. You're very kind.
Lord Inquisitor Dunn, your sins are uncountable. Repent, turn back now, or face the wrath of God.
Pretty much. And I actually am almost done eating, so.
Oh, yay! Valerian gets to present soon.
Yep.
Well, I've officially ripped the Band-Aid off, so I'm going to be hammering home at this stuff now.
Uh-oh.
Yeah.
So, you have been warned. I will return.
So basically, my work is going to get, my novel is going to get it. Okay. Half a sec. Just need to do one more thing. There. So I didn't want to get food goop on my computer.
Food goop. What are you eating anyway?
That last thing I had was a prune. That was my dessert. I actually like prunes.
Okay.
Just don't be such a prude.
Don't worry. Let's see. Okay. So I think I'm actually ready now. And let's see. Where were we? The emperor has been changed. The old emperor died. We got the new emperor, Emperor Mpu'u. He has sent Barama's sister Tiaku and his, meaning Mpu'u's brother, Ekwekwe the Younger, on a mission to restore peace to the island of Oro and call off the attack on Lady Margaret. However, there's also a condition, which is that she and her friends have to come to court, and they'll have a parley there. And to continue, Tiaku's party traveled on horseback up the main road, stopping at inns on the way. Those inns that hadn't been raided by Daraimi's army or sacked by mutinous peasants. Often they had to pitch tents. They took care to stop at nightfall. This journey was dangerous enough even when rebellion wasn't in progress, and fully 1/10 of their escort ended up being murdered. Tiaku was shocked by the devastation of Ikhalamu. Villages burnt, fields burnt, dead animals, dead people, not even properly buried, ruined castles that had stood proudly in the sun on her previous visit. Survivors, often sick or injured, begged on the roadside. There had been some beggars before, but nothing like these numbers, and she had been at best oblivious and at worst contemptuous in those days. Some moaned things like "Fo" or "Lom" or "Krat ye Ammar." Others, angrier, glared at the Sondaranians and growled imprecations like Zerihanna and worse. Vultures, weasels, and vermin were the dominant animal life, with the rest mostly in hiding. That's mostly in hiding. Although there were still a fair bit of glyptodonts. Fair washout out here, said Ekwekwe, summing it up. I doubt we'll find much nightlife here. Ghastly. Tiaku said nothing. Presently they passed the ruins of Castle Tsenya with its scorched and ravaged fields, and beheld the remains of Lemshim and his warriors, now barely recognizable as human. They espied a tiny remnant of survivors, wounded and reduced to beggary. The entire area seemed to have become a wasteland at best, and an open graveyard at worst. Not all of Ichalimu was in this estate, primarily the north and east. Near to Tserthaton there was still intermittent fighting, and Tiaku's party had to go carefully to avoid being attacked or robbed by the locals or the Sondaranian soldiers, who weren't necessarily fussy at this point as to precisely whom they raided. By the time they reached Daraimi's encampment to the northeast of Tserthaton, they had lost another eighth of their escort. I humbly suggest we ask Daraimi to send us some men, said the captain of the guard. Punjara Bemwe Oea. I'll command it, said Tiaku. I mean, Glorious Ekwekwe will, of course. What? Said Ekwekwe. Oh. He shrugged and tried to take a sniff of the rather inferior waka'a he had picked up at the Castle of the Ambata. Horseback was a ghastly place to take waka'a. Ekwekwe hated travel. Boring, uncomfortable, and no decent bordelli. At last, a few hours before nightfall, on the 1st of Karayura, which is early November, they reached Daraimi's camp. Not that Ekwekwe thought much of that either. He didn't care much for camping either. There's two eithers in a row there. Oh, well. Sorry. There. As they arrived at the encampment, Tiaku and Ekwekwe saw further ravages. The Sondaranian soldiers having laid waste to crops and castles. But the ravagers didn't look as though they were doing so wonderfully themselves. The soldiers were hungry, tired, and running out of women to rape. They had hoped for supplies, but what Tiaku had brought along was quite insufficient to feed an entire army, even if a smallish one. And if one can't say the war had gone well for Margaret and her friends, it wasn't exactly a smashing success for the besiegers either. It is therefore not surprising that the sentries were grumpy. Nonetheless, they accepted Tiaku and Ekwekwe's credentials without question. We did not trifle with exalted bulks. The imperial party were led past the infantry, cavalry, and provision tents until they reached the commander's pavilion. Tiaku took one look at the pavilion with its garish yet tawdry sculptures of Daraimi's mountain hawk, and the Sondaranian dragon goat thing, and snorted. Ekwekwe didn't look too impressed either. Daraimi was very annoyed when Tiaku told him there was to be a truce, especially when he heard how little she and Ekwekwe had brought with them in the way of supplies. And he found her demand for men to join her bodyguard simply outrageous. It was, moreover, unfortunate that Tiaku and Ekwekwe had come in the middle of a slave torture session. For some reason, that didn't seem to please the new arrivals, Tiaku particularly. You were meant to be winning them back, Commander Daraimi Bemwe Gara. She berated him with a scornful gesture. Of course you needed some violence, but hardly this much. We shall report this to Exalted, and in the meantime you will keep your punishments within reasonable limits. These filthy little provincials are leading you around by the nose, growled Doraimi. What do you know of war and politics? Go back to your Perusa and take off your clothes. That's all you're good for. Strike him, said Tiaku. She had had enough insolence from Umara, her elder brother. She didn't need to take it from a third-rate officer on top of all that. One of the bodyguards slapped Doraimi on the cheek relatively gently, but by an unfortunate coincidence, Apotu chose this moment to peck him. How durst you, said Doraimi. I say, let's all calm down and have a drink, said Ekwekwe. Quite so, said the governor, raising a hand. These are representatives of Exalted Bulks. We all desire the good of the empire, I hope. Your sculptures are exquisite. They weren't, but a little compliment never hurt. She had me struck, protested Doraimi. He began frothing at the mouth. I'd like to. And he would have gone off on a very lewd description of exactly what he wanted to do to Tiaku, but thought better of it. He could torture Saranji later and fantasize that it was her. That's what you get for being a fool, Governor Bruno told Doraimi. The annoyance of dealing with these unwelcome guests was worth it for the pleasure of seeing Doraimi put in his place. You can't talk that way to people from court. Even you ought to know that. Show the commander Exalted seal, Tiaku commanded her secretary. Are you colorblind, or do you not see that glorious ambassador and I are clad in the imperial crimson? Can you read, or do you not recognize that Exalted has given us full power by these documents? Doraimi had to admit that everything was in order, but he did so with as ill a grace as he durst. You will address my glorious lord and myself according to the correct usage. As glorious and splendid Saranji, or my lady, said Tiaku. If you show disrespect again, we shall have you scourged. We represent Exalted will. Yes, my lady, growled Doraimi, whose name I misspelt. But Exalted, he does not know how things are around here. Half a second, sorry. There. He does not know how things are around here. We have seen quite enough to issue a report to Exalted, said Tiaku. We shall examine further and see what can be done. But a truce must be arranged as soon as possible, and we shall be the ones to determine when that is. Yes, lady ambassadress, said Doraimi grumpily, and Barunu more enthusiastically. Even a red-masked lizard learns in time, said Barunu with a smirk directed at Doraimi. Red-masked lizards were notoriously stupid. Is what Exalted wrote in this document, after all, said Ekwekwe. Don't mind if I help myself to some of your wine. He did, while Doraimi gritted his teeth. Bruno felt inclined to laugh, but decided it would be better to take advantage of the situation and scrounge some of Doraimi's food and drink for himself. Who knew military rations could be so good? Exalted will is our joy, he said, not at all displeased to see Doraimi taken down a peg. We enjoyed Jamarad's bounty, so why not share? Doraimi did what he could to put a worm in the mango, as the saying went. He painted a picture of a murthering rabble of peasants and provincials being gallantly bested by Exalted's loyal and heroic soldiery, and tried to squeeze the facts into this picture as best he could. Tiako took some notes on her honey tablet. We shall make our observations and report accordingly, she said. You may be right, but we shall have to see for ourselves. What we have seen of your conduct does not necessarily inspire confidence. Ekwekwe's main interest was, I say, my good fellows, are there any decent bordelli in the neighborhood? We're in the middle of a war, Glorious, said Bruno. Not much time for recreation. Oh, there's plenty of recreation in a war, thank Nihandra and Rue, growled Doraimi, cheering up a bit and gesticulating wildly. The best is you don't even have to pay the women. You don't even need their consent. I say, that's a bit, I don't know. Rather rude, what? Said Ekwekwe dubiously. Debauchery, yes, perhaps. Outright rape? Bad manners. There will be no raping, said Tiyaku. Exalted forbids it. And Nihandra and Rue have nothing to do with it, so don't go blaming them for your pastimes. Doesn't know anything about war. Why Exalted should allow me to be bossed about by a woman who knows absolutely nothing about war. Must protest, muttered Doraimi under his breath. Let me see how long much. I say, great chap, we didn't quite catch that, said Ekwekwe, taking a sniff of Doraimi's waka'a and helping himself to his mango wine. I said Exalted will is my joy, said Doraimi almost snappily. Good, said Tiyaku. We shall accept your hospitality for a meal, and then we shall talk to the Lady Margaret and see if we can arrange a truce. In the meantime, you will only use violence if attacked. We shall leave an officer in charge here from our bodyguard, and he will be the one to determine punishments until more permanent arrangements can be made. We will propose to Exalted that he have you transferred to a location more suited to your talents. And if you're the best the army has, Sacred Nine help us. Yes, splendid, Saranji. The meal was a little awkward except for Bruno, who was having the best time in months. The worst of it, from Doraimi's point of view, was not only did he have to share his victuals with these newcomers, but they didn't even seem that impressed. I say, is this the best Glyptodon you've got? Said Ekwekwe. Ghastly. Now, glorious ambassador, we must be gracious, said Tiyaku. We must thank these brave defenders of the Empire for sharing their meager fare with us. Serving Exalted is our joy, said Doraimi, before adding somewhat pointedly, it grieves us that Glorious and Splendid must depart so soon. I wish you luck in making peace with that Lady Otter and her gaggle of murderous peasant scum. Life is full of sorrow, said Tiyaku. Even Karat knew grief, but we must do our duty. The Imperial party left the next day, mildly mourned by Bruno, since Doraimi took advantage of their departure to be twice as obnoxious as before. I hope the next place won't be as ghastly, remarked Ekwekwe the Younger. Where are we going? To Tserthaton, Glorious, to present Exalted's terms to Lady Margaret. Tiyaku was fairly confident that she could persuade her cousin to accept the terms and bring about peace. If she had any misgivings about the possible consequences of her mission, she pushed it to the back of her mind. Trusting Exalted was her only hope. And that is the end of that chapter. Sorry if that was a little long.
No, you're fine.
You're good. I am a little taken aback by how casually these people speak about some very, very vile actions. But I suppose that I am not meant to even feel remotely sympathetic to them.
No, that chap, you're not meant to like that chap at all.
Yep.
So
quite clearly.
If you dislike him, then it worked.
I just these people. I cannot wait to watch their throats getting slit.
Yeah.
I look at that and I think, you need to be hung. just for even talking like that to someone who's clearly of much higher social standing than you. The fact you're even so daring to speak to them like that at all is like to the gallows.
Yeah.
Now,
To be fair, he's aristocracy too, but she has been given this mission by Exalted, which gives her a higher standing, even though they're from roughly the same class.
yeah,
originally, but she's got a mission from Exalted, so that places her above him.
yeah, but also like the way he's just talking about doing some very, very repugnant things.
Yeah.
So you did a very good job making him contemptible.
Yes, it's fun writing villains.
Yeah. Yeah. Look, Aspiring told me that his favorite chapter so far was the one where we're introduced to Hattori, who doesn't even make many appearances in my story, but he is one of the antagonists. He is one of the 5 lead antagonists on the villain side. So, yeah. I can, in fact, confirm writing the scenes with the villains is very, very fun.
Yeah. Yeah. I do miss the old decadent emperor chap, the depraved emperor chap, but his time is gone.
His time has come. He's gone. He shall remain gone.
Yeah.
And thank fuck.
Yeah, we don't have that villain anymore, but we do have other villains.
If I hear that Vladimir Lenin sounding motherfucker ever again.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Anything else?
I think done.
Where are you, Blight Thing?
I'm thinking that that was pretty good. I'm excited to see exactly where it all goes. Since like it now seems like they're in the negotiation phase.
Yeah.
Where it's just like, okay, let's see where everybody's going in terms of what's going to happen as far as diplomacy goes. It's probably going to degenerate into something bad soon, but it is going to be interesting to see for sure.
Yeah. We needed a bit of a break from mayhem and murder.
Mm-hmm. Well, it's nice being gone. Thank you very much. I have my work cut out for me, and I am also back at it.
Good.
Because, hey, I mean, I didn't do a bad. I just need to signal, hey, guys, this is the plot. The plot is this. They go to planet. They have to find big scary monster and kill it. That's it. That's the plot. It's just a predator, except they know that they're hunting down the predator.
Fair enough.
Look, for once in your life, don't smash big monster.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know why it made me think of that, but it was funny. All right.
Okay.
Anything else? Are we done? No! I want to keep saying that.
Just embrace the done memes, Balerian. Do not fight it.
Why is
The
it
more you fight it, the worse it will be.
Why does he have to have that name? Get your last name changed immediately. That's an order.
Just for that, the planetary governor is now named Dunn.
Oh no! Oh no! Does he have the initials?
Eat shit.
Does he have the initials BM?
Yes, he does now.
Oh no! Oh no! This is
I
a
can.
tragic moment in the story.
Valerie embodies my sense of pride. Her vindictiveness is my vindictiveness. I will be as vindictive as I want.
Father. Oh no!
We'll make it an inside joke between all of our books that we have a character named Dunn, and he's got to sound like the actual Dunn.
Oh, just wait till you have the book where I am actually a character within it.
You know what?
Serious?
Yeah.
Shit.
It might be possible for me to have a character named Dunn. It might be possible. It might fit in the language. It might fit into the language. I might write myself a
Even
note.
you're doing it now, Balerion.
Well,
It's
I
all
might.
over.
I might.
We are so done now.
Kill it.
We are all done.
Kill it dead. Make it die. Just make it die.
No, we will never be done with the done memes.
Oh god.
We won't be done until the universe itself is done. But even then, we will still continue on because we will never actually be done.
Thank God.
Yeah, wouldn't it be so interesting if you became clones of me?
No, it'd be kind of boring, actually.
No. That's all I'm going to say. I'm just going to straight up say no. And that's it. No context. Anyway, I'm going to go ahead, hop off, change, and head back over to my parents' place.
All right.
Goodbye. I'm going to get back to writing.
Right.
See y'all then.
All right. Adios, friends.
Have a riot.
Yeah. Bye.
A lion doesn't concern himself with the opinions of a sheep.
Opinions? No, that's not an opinion. It's a fact.
Fucking Tywin Lannister. Always the GOAT.